Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something pretty wild? We're talking time travel today. Real people, real stories, claiming they've jumped through time. But here's the thing that always gets me. If it's really possible, where are all the time travelers? Shouldn't we be bumping into them left and right? That's what we're going to explore today, untangling these mind-blowing stories and looking at the science behind it all.
It's funny. These stories, even the ones that might be a bit far-fetched, they show just how obsessed we are with time. It's this thing we all experience, but it's still such a mystery.
Totally. And speaking of mysteries, let's kick things off with John Titor. This guy popped up online back in 2000, claiming he was a time traveler from, get this, 2036.
I remember that. Everyone thought it was a hoax.
Right. But Titor didn't just make vague predictions. He went all in on the details, talking about CERN, black holes, even these things called singularity points that could warp time.
Yeah, it was pretty detailed. He even said the hardest part of time travel wasn't the actual traveling, it was getting the coordinates right. With the universe constantly moving, you could end up in the wrong place, the wrong time, maybe even a black hole. So he claimed time travelers stick to jumps of like 60 years max to be safe.
Okay, that does make it sound a little less crazy.
Mhm.
So why come to 2000? What was his big mission? Teeter said he needed to grab an IBM 5100 computer. This old-school tech was supposed to be the key to fixing a huge computer problem in his time, like Y2K, but way worse.
And there's the family tie-in too, right? He said his grandfather worked on that IBM 5100, which is why he got sent back to get it.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a time-traveling family affair. But get this. This is where things get really weird. Teeter also said he was living with his family in 1998, so his past self was just hanging out while his future self was on this mission in 2000.
Yeah, that's the part that blew everyone's mind. Everyone was yelling paradox.
Right. But Teeter had an explanation. He said time travel isn't about moving back and forth on your own timeline. It's more like jumping between parallel universes.
So you could have multiple versions of yourself existing at the same time.
Exactly. And that avoids the whole cosmic meltdown thing.
The whole multiverse idea is pretty wild. But some physicists actually believe it's possible.
I know, right? So maybe Teeter wasn't totally off his rocker, but did his predictions actually come true? Well, some of them did, in a sort of vague way. He mentioned CERN building a huge particle accelerator, and they did start building one in 2017. Some scientists even worried about accidentally creating mini black holes.
That's a scary thought.
It is. He also predicted a big earthquake in Peru, which, yeah, we had one in 2011, but earthquakes happen all the time.
True, but he also predicted China's first manned spaceflight, which happened in 2003. That was a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. Now, some of his other predictions were a little fuzzy. He described Tokyo in 2020 as being partly uninhabitable after some kind of disaster. Some people link that to the Fukushima nuclear meltdown in 2011. But it wasn't as bad as he made it sound. He explained these differences by saying that over time, his timeline and ours would drift apart.
Like two rivers branching off and flowing in different directions.
Exactly. But it also makes it hard to judge those predictions that haven't happened yet, like his most chilling one, World War III in 2015. Thankfully, that one didn't happen. Well, he's not yet. And to make things even weirder, there's a book from 2003 that supposedly has info and footage from Teeter, given by his mom to a lawyer in Florida. The lawyer said it was all real, but some people think he made the whole thing up, especially because his brother worked in IT.
So is Teeter a real time traveler or just a really good internet troll? It's a tough one. But it does raise some interesting questions, like if time travel is possible, are there rules? And what happens when you mess with the past, even in a parallel universe?
Great questions. Teeter's story is definitely a wild one. But let's not forget our main question. Why haven't we met more time travelers? Maybe there are strict rules they have to follow, or maybe it's just too risky.
Or maybe, like Teeter said, they're out there, just not in our reality.
Interesting. Well, our next case takes us to Wall Street, where a guy named Andrew Carlson turned the stock market upside down. And his story is just as strange as Teeter's, if not stranger.
Ready for another mind bender?
Bring it on. Okay, imagine this. It's 2003. Wall Street, market's a mess, up and down like crazy.
Oh yeah, 2003 rough times.
Experienced investors are losing big time. But then there's this guy, Andrew Carlson. He takes a measly $800 and turns it into, get this, $350 million in just 2 weeks.
Whoa, 2 weeks. That's insane.
Yeah, talk about suspicious, right?
Definitely raised some red flags.
The FBI thought so too. They hauled him in, thinking insider trading. And instead of denying it, Carlson drops a bombshell. He says he's a time traveler from the year 2256.
Wait, what? A time traveler?
Yeah, using his future knowledge to play the stock market.
That's one way to explain it.
Right. But here's the thing. He couldn't or wouldn't say how he did it. No details about this futuristic software he was supposedly using. But he offered a different kind of proof. He said he could predict future events.
Like what?
He mentioned the Iraq War, which hadn't even started yet, and he pinpointed bin Laden's hideout, northern Pakistan.
Hold on, he predicted those things, and they turned out to be true.
Yeah, spooky, right? So the FBI, they're skeptical, of course, but they're also kind of intrigued. They set $1 million bail, figured he wouldn't run if he was telling the truth.
Yeah, makes sense.
But guess what happened? He vanished.
Seriously, he just disappeared.
Poof, gone without a trace. And to make things even weirder, both of his predictions came true. The Iraq War and bin Laden's location.
So was he really a time traveler?
Well, before you jump to conclusions, there's a twist. The whole story actually came from a tabloid. One known for stretching the truth, shall we say.
Oh, so maybe not so reliable then.
Yeah, casts a big shadow of doubt.
Yeah.
But those predictions, they were spot on.
It's a real head-scratcher.
It is. Unlike Titor, who claimed he was on a specific time travel mission, Carlson's story, if it's true, suggests something more accidental.
Like he stumbled into it somehow.
Yeah, maybe he bumped into some tech or a cosmic glitch that flung him through time.
Interesting.
Makes you wonder if there are other accidental time travelers out there.
Lost in history.
Exactly. Which brings us to our next case. This one flips the script a bit. It's not about someone from the future coming here. It seems to be about someone from the past ending up in the future.
Oh, this sounds intriguing.
It's a doozy, trust me. This guy, Sergei Ponomarenko, he shows up in 1958 Kyiv, looking totally out of place.
What do you mean out of place?
Well, he's dressed in old-fashioned clothes, carrying a really old camera, and he's acting completely bewildered, like he doesn't know where he is.
Right.
The police find him, check his ID. And it says he's 25 years old, born in 1932. But the ID card itself is over 50 years old.
Wait, so his ID is from the past, but he's in 1958.
Yeah, it's a real brain twister. And it gets weirder. When they ask him for his address,
Yeah.
he gives directions to a street that doesn't exist anymore, like it vanished decades ago.
Okay, now that's just strange.
Right. So the police think he's having some kind of mental breakdown. They take him to a psychiatric hospital.
Makes sense.
At the hospital, Ponomarenko tells the doctor he was out taking photos when he saw this weird, clock-shaped object in the sky, and suddenly everything changed. He found himself in this unfamiliar place.
A clock-shaped object.
I know, right? Not your typical time machine. Now, remember that old camera he was carrying? The doctor, who happened to be a photography buff, recognized it as a rare Japanese model. Way too old for a young guy in 1958 to have.
So we've got an old ID card, an antique camera. It's adding up.
It gets even crazier. The doctor asked to look at the camera, and Ponomarenko leaves it with him. He's in a locked ward, waiting for the doctor to come back. But when the doctor returns, Ponomarenko is gone.
He escaped.
Vanished from a locked room. The only things left behind were the camera and the undeveloped film.
Whoa, this is getting more and more unbelievable.
And here's the best part. When they developed the film, it shows scenes from 1958 Kiev, including pictures of Ponomarenko himself, a woman, probably his girlfriend, and him wearing the same clothes he had on when he disappeared.
So it's like he accidentally documented his own time slip.
Exactly.
That's mind-blowing.
The police investigated, of course. They confirmed Ponomarenko was a real person and that he disappeared in 1960, 2 years after he first showed up.
So he disappeared twice.
Seems that way. They even found the woman in the photos. She said it was him, gave them more pictures. But she hadn't seen him since his first disappearance in 1960.
Okay, so he disappeared in 1960, then topped up in 1958, and then disappeared again.
Yep, that's the story. Unlike Titor and Carlson, who were supposedly from the future, Ponomarenko seems to have traveled from the past to the future. And it wasn't intentional, more like an accident.
Maybe triggered by that clock-shaped thing?
Maybe. It's a whole different kind of time travel story. Raises a whole new set of questions.
Like, is accidental time travel even possible?
And if it is, what does that tell us about how time really works?
Is it a straight line, or is it something more fluid, something we don't fully understand yet?
Those are some big questions.
Yeah.
But before we get too lost in those, let's shift gears for a second. Talk about a different approach to proving time travel.
Okay, what's this one about?
This one involves Stephen Hawking,
The Stephen Hawking.
the one and only. In 2009, he decided to throw a party.
A party?
Not just any party. A party for time travelers.
A time traveler party.
Yeah, no, it sounds crazy.
How does that even work?
Well, here's the brilliant part. He didn't send out the invitations until after the party.
So only someone who already knew about the party could come.
Exactly. Someone from the future.
That's pretty clever.
It was. So did anyone show up? Sadly, no. No time-traveling guests.
Huh, too bad.
But even though no one came, it shows how much we're fascinated by time travel.
And how far we're willing to go to prove it's real.
It's like setting a trap for a ghost, right? Just because you don't catch one doesn't mean they're not out there. Now, even though Hawking's party didn't prove anything, there is some actual science behind the idea of time travel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Einstein's theory of relativity, specifically something called time dilation. It suggests that time isn't absolute.
What does that mean?
It means time can move differently for different people,
Yeah.
depending on how fast they're moving. The faster you go, the slower time moves for you, compared to someone who's standing still.
So time is relative.
Exactly.
It's wild.
And we've actually seen this in real life. Astronauts on the International Space Station, they experience time slightly slower than us here on Earth.
Because they're moving faster.
Exactly. So, in a way, we've already proven time travel is possible.
On a tiny scale, at least.
Right. But what about the kind of time travel we see in movies? Jumping years or even centuries into the past or future?
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
That's where things get really tricky. We run into paradoxes, like the grandfather paradox.
What's that?
It's the classic time travel problem. You go back in time and kill your grandfather before your father is born.
Whoa, that's messed up.
It is. And it creates a paradox. Because if you killed your grandfather, you would never have been born.
So how could you go back and kill him in the first place?
Exactly.
It's a real mind bender.
But some theories, like quantum mechanics and M theory, they offer a way out of this paradox through the idea of parallel universes.
So if you travel to the past, it's actually a different timeline.
Yeah, you're not messing with your own past, you're altering the past in different universes.
So there could be countless versions of us, living different lives in different universes.
That's the idea.
Whoa, that's heavy.
It is. It's a mind-blowing concept. But it could explain how time travel might work without breaking the laws of physics.
It's like having different save files in a video game. You can mess around in one without affecting the others.
That's a great way to put it. But even with parallel universes, we still haven't answered the big question. Why haven't we met more time travelers?
Yeah, even if they're from different timelines. Maybe there are rules we don't know about. Or maybe it's just too dangerous to mess with time.
Or maybe, just maybe, they're already here.
Fighting among us.
Watching us, studying us.
Okay, now that's kind of creepy.
It is, isn't it?
But if they're so advanced, why hide?
Maybe they're trying to protect us.
Or learn from our mistakes.
Or maybe they're just tourists.
Taking a peek at different eras.
Who knows? That's the beauty of it. The possibilities are endless.
And that's what makes time travel so fascinating.
Exactly. It makes us question everything we think we know about reality.
And it reminds us that there's still so much we don't know.
Exactly. All right, we've covered some wild stories today. John Titor, the time traveler with a mission. Andrew Carlson, the stock market whiz. And Sergei Ponomarenko, the accidental tourist from the past.
Each one stranger than the last.
And whether they're true or not, they raise some really big questions.
Of time, about reality, about what's possible.
But one thing's for sure, we're obsessed with time travel.
Always have been, probably always will be.
It's this idea that just won't go away.
This desire to break free from the limits of time.
To explore the past, the future, everything in between.
And who knows, maybe someday we will.
Maybe someday. These stories won't seem so crazy.
Maybe we'll look back and laugh at how little we knew.
Or maybe we'll find out that the truth is even wilder than we ever imagined.
And that's a thought, isn't it?
It is. And on that note, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of time travel. We hope you enjoyed the ride.
Keep those minds open, folks.
And keep exploring the universe. You never know what you might find. You know, it makes you wonder what makes people come forward with these time travel stories. Is it fame? Or are they trying to make sense of something strange that happened to them?
Maybe they really believe they've seen something beyond what we understand.
The idea of time travel is just so captivating. Imagine seeing history happen right in front of you, or fixing past mistakes, or even just getting a glimpse of the future.
We've been telling time travel stories forever.
I know, right?
Books, movies, it's a classic theme.
Those stories often deal with the ethics of it all, too.
Yeah, the whole messing with the past thing.
Like, can you really change history without causing a whole bunch of problems?
It's the butterfly effect, right?
Exactly.
One little change can have huge consequences.
It makes you think about how everything's connected.
And it brings up those big philosophical questions. Free will, destiny, cause and effect.
All those things get even more complicated when you add time travel to the mix.
Time travel stories, they're like a reflection of our own anxieties and hopes.
They make us think about our relationship with time itself. The past, the present, the future.
They challenge us to question what we think is possible.
Yeah, maybe our understanding of time is just a tiny piece of the puzzle.
That's the beauty of these stories, even if they're not all true. They make us think outside the box.
Keep an open mind.
Exactly.
The universe is full of mysteries. And who knows, maybe someday, what seems like science fiction today will be reality tomorrow.
Wouldn't that be something?
It would.
Well, until then, we've got these amazing stories to keep us entertained.
And maybe even teach us a thing or two. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into time travel. We hope you had fun.
Keep those questions coming.
And keep exploring. You never know what you might find out there.
Maybe we'll all meet up at a time traveler party someday.
And this time, someone will actually show up.
That would be amazing.
Until then, keep looking up and keep wondering.